Languages have families. They have parents, daughters, sisters. Their lineage spreads over a few valleys and villages, or across continents and millions of people. Much like how we humans have extended families with shared ancestors farther back in our lineage, so too do languages. English is one of those languages that has a family. That is, it is not an isolate. She is thought by many to stand alone from her family, having moved out to have some, personal time with the Romance languages. But English has sisters too, often forgotten about, and daughters of her own. Thus, I present the Sisters of English. This video was made possible by my patrons, Agma Schwa and Alpha Scobble. If you enjoy my work, please consider supporting me on Patreon. English is, of course, an Indo-European language in the Germanic family. Many moons ago, Germanic became three: North, West, and East. The three lived separately: North in the beauty of Scandinavia, West in the cradle of the Rhine, the Black Forest, and Uland, and East all over Europe, going where the money took her. Over the centuries, East withered away till there was only Crimean Gothic left, who went extinct a few centuries ago. North had her own family, giving us today Icelandic, Faroese, Norwegian, Danish, Elfdalian, Swedish, and Gotlandic. But of the three, it was West Germanic who would spread the furthest. She too had three: Ingvaeonic, Istvaeonic, and Ermanonic, who in practice formed a dialect continuum across north-central Europe. Ermanonic came to dominate the Alps, the Upper Rhine, the lands of Harz and Silesia, Prussia, and Austrian Bavaria, in the form of today's German and her dialects, as well as Luxembourgish, Pennsylvania Dutch, I hate that name with a burning passion, and Yiddish. Ermanonic and her descendants formed a plurality of native Germanic speakers in Europe today, as German with her dialects boasts over 95 million speakers, though that number is slightly deceiving, as it includes speakers of Ingvaeonic German dialects. Istvaeonic is today the smallest of the three, giving us Dutch and some Central German dialects, including, but not limited to, Flemish, Zeelandic, Limburgish, Moos-Rhenish, and Brabantine, on top of Afrikaans and perhaps the Old Frankish language. She forms a dialect continuum with the Central German languages today. And now to the great-grandmother of English, Ingvaeonic. Ingvaeonic lived on the coast of the North Sea, from Frisia through Uland, and formed a dialect continuum herself among Frisians, Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. Ingvaeonic over time split into three: Old Frisian, Old Saxon, and Old English. The Jutes, although a separate tribe, were likely scattered throughout Frisia and North Francia after the invasion of Uland by the Danes, or stayed and assimilated. Some Jutes also migrated to Savonia and Finland. Thus, no Old Jutish. Old Saxon would grow to become English's second cousin, Low German, or Plattdeutsch. Old Frisian diverged into the three Frisian languages of today. Old English didn't actually split directly off of the Ingvaeonic continuum, but was formed through blood, conquest, and death. The Angles who settled in Anglia, the Jutes in Kent, the Saxons in Essex, Sussex, and Wessex, plus the Frisians and Franks who tagged along, over hundreds of years conquered the Britons and Roman settlers, and not only absorbed Celtic and Latin features, but coalesced to form Old English. Specifically, the dialect that would survive was the Wessex dialect, with those in Mercia, Kent, and Anglia being conquered by the Saxons, although by this point they were pretty much all just Anglo-Saxons. Norse speakers in the north and east of England would also leave a significant mark on English. Here we enter well-known linguistic history. With the conquest of England by the Normans, English took in large amounts of French influence, mainly in its vocabulary, thus separating the early Middle English from Frisian. Over the next few hundred years, English people settled in the lowlands of Scotland and the east coast of Ireland, all previously dominated by Celtic languages. And now we observe the final split of English. The speakers of English that settled in Scotland and Ireland mixed with the local population, and following separation from England proper, their languages began to diverge. These are the Anglic languages, the sisters of English: Scots, Yola, and Fingalian. There is controversy over whether these are languages, dialects, or just varieties. Much like how the Germanic dialects of continental Europe often blur the line between language and dialect, so too do Scots, Yola, and Fingalian. I firmly hold the belief that they should be considered separate languages. This is because the common ancestor, early Middle English, was spoken over 700 years ago, about the same as Galician and Portuguese, which are considered separate languages by most, and that Scotland has had a separate culture and growth for much of its history. Thus, I will be referring to these sisters of English as languages for the rest of the video. So here's a tree of English. Her sisters are Scots, Yola, and Fingalian. Her first cousins are West, North, and Sutherland Frisian. And let's not forget her second cousin, Low German. Now, let's take a look at the other Anglic languages and see how they differ from English. There's already been many better videos on Scots, so I'd recommend you just watch one of those. But To summarize, Scots is the sole other surviving Anglic language today, spoken in Scotland and Northern Ireland. The main differences between it and English are pronunciation, as Scots did not undergo the Great Vowel Shift, the retention of words from early Middle English that English no longer uses, and differences in verb conjugation. Some dialects of Scots also have retained the second-person singular pronoun. Scots has been undergoing a rebirth of its own after centuries of disuse and has been regaining its identity from just being a heavy Scottish accent. Now, I would speak a sample for you, but I'm absolutely awful at Scottish and Irish pronunciation, so instead, just watch this video on the history of the Scots language in Scots if you want to hear it. Yola was spoken in the 4th and Bargy baronies of County Wexford in southeast Ireland, going extinct by 1850. It kept many more conservative features of Middle English, including but not limited to eth as a verb ending, n as a plural marker, and the Middle English pronouns. Pronunciation shifted so that most fricatives became voiced, and the majority of great vowel shift changes did not occur. Stress also often fell on the second syllable of every word. It also includes many loanwords from Irish. Okay, again, I will butcher pronunciation if I try, so I'd recommend this video by I Love Languages. Fingalian is very poorly attested, as the only surviving documents are thought to be parodies of it by non-speakers. It was spoken in County Fingal, just north of Dublin. There aren't any good audio samples that I can recommend just because of how little information exists on it. Fingalian was extinct by or before Yola became extinct, although as with Yola, some words still survive in the local dialect. This has been the Sisters of English. Thank you for watching. Until next time.